Would you rather own 100% of a little grape or 10 to 30% of a massive watermelon? Welcome to the Nine Doors Down Show, where we discuss anything and everything about commercial real estate and investing. Let's get it.
Nine Doors Down.
John Lopez.
Nine Doors Down.
Hi, this is Tony Rose.
Nine Doors Down.
Hi, this is Anthony Pimentel.
Educating, capital raising, networking.
Nine doors down. Nine doors down.
This is called a show.
What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Nine Doors Down Show. Our next guest is someone that I like to be around with and talk to because I like to talk to people who are much smarter than me. And Anthony, when I met this guy, we were at a due diligence in West Texas looking at self-storage properties. And I'll always remember being at the airport right before we all flew home. This gentleman, he was talking about one of his other side businesses, which was around cryptocurrency. And I remember just sitting there, I was eating my bag of chips, drinking a soda. I'm like, dude, this guy gets it, man. Like I need to be around him more. And so that was like one of my first memories of this gentleman. And Anthony, how about yourself, man? How did you meet this gentleman?
You know, it's funny. It's kind of the same story. We met at a also looking at storage and due diligence, and we met and we just started chatting it up. I do crypto, he does crypto, and right away, I think I remember when I flew back, I was like, we got to stay connected to this guy. He knows his stuff. He's a very savvy investor. He has all these other investment that he was doing with, I don't know, I believe it was single family homes at the time, but I'm sure he's grown a lot more from then.
Our featured guest is Mr. Sean Chuplis. He's the founder of Airworthy Capital. A little bit about Sean. After a successful military flying career ending in 2012, Sean has closed $36 million in real estate deals with 750 doors in 9 different states. General partner for 3 multifamily properties and partner on a recent self-storage property where he raised $2.3 million. From residential flips to debt lending, Sean has done it all in his decade of real estate experience. Sean is a serial entrepreneur with successful businesses in fintech, aviation, electronics, and real estate. He's an active angel investor helping seed 10 startups in the fintech space. He holds an MBA and a master's degree in strategic studies from the prestigious Naval War College. So for those tuning in, you might be stuck on the freeway. You might be listening to this in your shower, or you may be on a flight from Los Angeles to Dubai. Let's welcome our featured guest, Mr. Sean Chuplis.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate that that intro. You're making me a little shy here, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely,
Sean,
man. You left an impression on us when we chatted up. Just your knowledge, basically, when we chatted up. So it was pretty awesome.
Sean, let's dive in because I know our listeners, I know they're going to be inspired by your story. Let's start off. What was life like for you before your entrepreneurial endeavors and launching Airworthy Capital?
Well, my story mainly comes from military background. So before I started any businesses and kind of like understood the power of passive investing, I was active duty deployed, and it's just kind of a mindset of I'm literally trading my life and all my time for money. And then I eventually got out of active duty, and my background has been in aviation, so the logical next step for me was to go to the airlines and go kind of make money there. But at the time I'd gotten out of active duty, the airlines were not hiring. So it was very much a timing thing. So I recently completed my MBA, and another person I had served with was very active in multifamily investing and actually had put together a deal while we were deployed. And it just kind of blew my mind. Like, how are you raising millions of dollars and buying this, multi-million-dollar apartment complex? And you're just here deployed with me. Like, none of this made sense, and it kind of blew my mind. So It was kind of a very fortunate thing that I couldn't just go easily back into the W-2 job that I was kind of, destined to go to. And I had to branch out and find other ways to make money. So along the way, I've been doing other things. One of the first books that really kind of opened my eyes to the power of this was Building Wealth One House at a Time. And they talk about, just kind of you can get a residential loan with up to 4 doors. And what I had done is every time I was in the military, every place I moved, I had bought another property. And I'd kind of max that out and started going into things where I'd, do different creative financing and things like that. But yeah, really, I was kind of forced to do this because I couldn't go make money the traditional way. And so I had to really put some of my business skills to use, but also kind of expand on that and see how that could be leveraged with real estate and, gathering investor money and how that could be done. So I've since gone on and had a lot of other endeavors kind of talked about in the bio, but I started an electronics company, aviation electronics company. I've done debt lending. I've done flipped notes before, but really enjoyed real estate because there's a lot of different things you can do with it, a lot of different aspects. And I've really enjoyed starting Airworthy Capital, bringing some of my friends and people I serve with in the military along with my journey and allowing them to kind of invest in the deals, which I'm investing in myself. Every deal I do with Airworthy Capital, I'm putting my own money into it.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, was there anything like, did you have family members like while you were young that was showing you the entrepreneurial spirit?
Honestly, no. I mean, both my parents kind of, very hardworking, but I'm the first person to really own a business in the family. And then really some of the person I served with, mentioning him, and then going to some of these real estate conferences after I got out of active duty and going to these meetups and talking to other people that were doing it. That was kind of the way that it happened. So I think a lot of my knowledge was gained through reading, through books. The MBA kind of gave me the background of understanding how a business works, but it didn't really give me understanding of how multifamily investing works, like raising private money. Like that's a totally different world. You don't get that in a finance class going to grad school. It's a totally different thing.
That's fascinating, and I agree with that, Sean. Like, I'm a firm believer of you can have all the knowledge in the world, and you may be the smartest person that's out there, but if you don't take action and actually dive into it, you really don't have anything to show for. And that's something that we harp on, with people that we meet, or like it could be like one of our students or people we meet at the meetups. And so I find that fascinating. And there's always a common theme, in my opinion, about proximity. And yours happened to be in the military. What is it about the military mindset that I guess makes one to look at investments, and also maybe talk to another fellow service member of maybe joining on an investment?
Actually, I think being active duty military is kind of the opposite end of that spectrum. I like to jokingly say to my friends, they ask me about what being in the military is like. It's kind of like being in prison. Like you get institutionalized. Everybody dresses the same. Everybody kind of talks the same. Everybody kind of thinks the same. And then you kind of get stuck in this place where, all your basic needs are provided for. I mean, I was fortunate to be an officer, and I had all the basic things, but there's not a lot of room for like upward growth. So I actually had to kind of break my mindset from that. And, I only knew about, okay, well, how much do I get paid per hour? And then the first thing that, the first book that broke me from that, Millionaire Mind. I don't know if you've heard of that one. It's been around for a while, but just kind of talking about like, this is all about your mindset. You could be the best paid lawyer in the world, and still you can only get paid while you're working. Once you unlock that idea of passive income, having a business, something else that's shedding off passive income, you can really change that. So the things I did enjoy about the military, though, that I think I try to bring to my business and people I work with in the business, is integrity and accountability. I see that lacking with a lot of people I've worked with in real estate, and that's something I just took for granted in the military. When you ask somebody or tell somebody to get something done in the military, it's going to get done, and it's going to get done to a certain standard. And people are going to own what happened, whether that was, it got done right or it didn't get right. People kind of own their mistakes. And then that's kind of my friction point, I think, in the business world, is I don't have that same base level expectation with everyone I work with. So it's been harder to vet people that really kind of take ownership of what they do and that I can really trust. And that's kind of something that I think I've brought over from the military that I've really liked. And I keep those same ethics in the way that I run my business, the way that I interact with my investors, and the way that I kind of vet the deals. I'm expecting, like, I take personal ownership in everything I do. And I'm really trying to find people to work with that have that same ethos and how they run their operations.
Welcome to the course on raising capital for investments. In this course, we'll cover the following topics. 1, analyzing your investment strategy. Number 2, discovering potential investors. 3, crafting your pitch. 4, securing your investment. 5, our cheat code. We'll round out the program with our very own cheat code for getting in front of investors and being ready to pitch your investment opportunities. Take action today. Visit schoolofninedoorsdown.com and learn to attract capital.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I really appreciate about you is, holding people accountable, right? I mean, especially the ones managing deals. And if you're the face for your investors, you've got to be the one, you got to hold yourself accountable because you're the one vetting out these deals. Now, let me take a step back. When your friend or your military colleague shared you the deal, what pretty much perked your eyes? Or like, what was it about it? Was it the returns? Was it and also was it a buy and hold? Was it a flip? What type of property was it?
It was a buy and hold. And the thing that really just changed my mind at that point, I was kind of getting towards the end of active duty. I knew I was getting out, and I had a couple of properties, but these were just, single family properties. And I was like over the moon that I was making a few $100 a month in cash flow. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And the thing that just blew my mind was like, he added a few zeros to the order of magnitude of what I was dealing with. And I knew nothing about, I knew apartment complexes existed. I kind of like had briefly read about commercial real estates, but mostly through like REITs and kind of like large firms aggregating these things. But I had no idea that other people were kind of putting these together, gathering investors, and could be managing like such a large asset. So I think just the scale of it and the magnitude is really what caught my attention. And the fact that I was putting in all this effort to manage one tenant and one single family, and then he was just managing his managers and taking that and kind of like multiplying the cash flow from this property. And really the metric that I kind of pay attention to now is my return on time. How much time am I putting into something versus how much passive income is it generating? And that was just, like that was a whole new game for how much you can get out of, putting however many hours you're putting in a day. And this is just, yeah, like I said, total change in like order of magnitude and how much it was scaling.
I like that return on time. Ironically, that's the second time I've heard of that today alone. Someone mentioned it on LinkedIn and was talking about ROI, ROT, and then there was another metric, but it's fascinating that I heard it twice in one day. Now, with that real estate deal, was that your first dive into becoming an entrepreneur, or did you launch other businesses while in the military prior to getting into real estate?
So I didn't get involved in that deal with him. It was the first time I had kind of been exposed to it. But no, I've had other businesses. Like I kind of do some mentoring and coaching of other entrepreneurs, and things I like to talk about is you should never have, if you're going to go and do something, you should be able to, it's kind of like the Facebook mantra, like you should be able to fail and fail quickly. And so every deal or every business that I've tried to do, I've tried to make it so if it failed, like it's not like I took out massive debt, or it's something that could either work or not work. And it could be a learning experience along the way. So I had partnered with a Marine friend of mine. We had opened a gym and kind of a fitness training company that ended up not going very far. Ended up having another electronics business where we were buying refurbished phones, kind of fixing them up, selling them again on a secondary market. What other businesses did I have? I did financial blogging. So I'd talk about, how to hack the credit cards, like how to just do basic stuff like budgeting. And I kind of geared that towards the military, and then just did some residual income from referral fees with that. Let's see, what other businesses I've done. Also did kind of like, supplements, like related to that gym. So like health supplements. The electronic company I have is a very niche kind of product. Like it's dealing with a GPS receiver for aviation. And also does this thing called ADS-B, which takes in radio signals from the FAA and kind of shows you where weather is in other airplanes. You talked about fintech. So back probably about 10 years ago, there's this company called Lending Club that was doing peer-to-peer lending. So basically, if you wanted to take out a personally guaranteed loan, say $25,000, people would fund it 25 bucks at a time. And that way you kind of spread your risk across multiple loans. Then I helped develop a platform that went and kind of scraped data from that and would basically rate the notes based on some different criteria we gave it. So I mean, kind of the themes are I really like technology. I love doing things that I kind of believe in. So it's either helping society maybe a little bit, or maybe my little aspect of society. And I'm really passionate about aviation. So things that are involved in that theme. And yeah, I've had some interesting projects with crypto. Just a lot of them are kind of in the startup phase, but I think that it has the opportunity to potentially make things that we do financially more transparent, which would be great. And that's kind of the part that I really believe in with crypto. But yeah, I've had multiple businesses, but only a couple of them have really done well. I mean, the electronics company did well. Obviously, the real estate fund is doing well. And then the other ones just, it's kind of like a learning experience, which is good because it's very, very rare that somebody gets it right the first time. And that's okay. I mean, the real threat there, I think, is if you put everything, you're all in on this first business, you've taken out a big loan, borrowed money from friends and family, and then it doesn't work out, and then you're devastated and you never do it again. The thing you have to realize is it's going to be like maybe the 5th time or the 7th time that it's going to work out, and you just have to pick yourself back up, gather the lessons that you learned and just go at it and do it again and have some energy to do that, not just be devastated and like, woe is me. It's just that's how it works.
You hit it right on the nail, Sean. Like I'm a firm believer of fail forward and make as many errors as you can early on, so that way you become a better business person later down the road. And it's a very common theme that not a lot of new entrepreneurs realize, that you're gonna have failed ventures, but some of those ventures, like, you learn some very important things that's gonna translate into another avenue. I did want to ask you, in the last couple of years, AI has really been the talk of the town, right? Have you utilized AI in your businesses? And if so, how? And how has it helped you increase your efficiency?
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, so kind of the why of me for being so involved in technology. My undergrad is computer science, and I've even during undergrad, which was a while ago for me, I was writing about AI, and I wrote my thesis for Naval War College talking about AI and how it's going to change warfare. This is actually a thing that I think about a lot. I think it's going to change the way our society works in a lot of ways that we're just starting to realize. I've only just started to utilize AI with my businesses, mostly in kind of like helping me like write articles, kind of gather information, and also give different like aspects. Like I've asked it to look at marketing for the electronics businesses, like how would you change the marketing on this page? But with the new version of GPT, it's now doing data analysts, and it'll give you graphs, and it'll spit out insights that it's found from your data. So I'm interested to play with that. But I think a lot of the power is going to be for having it analyze things and kind of give you the next level, not just like the first surface layer of, okay, write me an article about this or do this, but hey, look at all this data. What trends are you seeing that don't just pop out for me? Like, look at this market, all this market data, this market dump. What can you gather out of there? And I think that's going to be the real powerful part of it. So I think, I mean, fortunately for us, I think our job as people that are kind of putting deals together and finding these things, like you talked about, it's a lot of your network and a lot of, talking to people. But I think the job of kind of like the bird dogs and kind of going out and like finding these things after you have those relationships is going to be able to be leveraged with AI. If you want to dive deeper on the subject, I touched on this earlier. I really love learning from other people's mistakes, and I love to read. I read, it used to be, I don't know, 30, 40 books a year. Whenever I'm driving, I'm always listening to an audiobook. So there's a couple of pretty good books on AI. One called Life 3.0, talking about like potentially what society might look like in a post-AGI world. And then as far as like business building and getting lessons from that. How I built this podcast is one of my favorites. And everyone just kind of talks about, they'll have a different business, and they'll talk to the founder or someone that was somewhere in the early stages, and how do they build that business? What friction points do they have, and what lessons do they learn? So those are, a bit of a tangent, but that's where I love to learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I mean, we're getting so many nuggets just from from this podcast. Now, have you ever? I'm sure you have. I know we utilize AI for certain things for marketing and blogs and all that. Has it come across how we can help, or how you can help, maybe how AI can help with like multifamily as different platforms? Have you thought of anything like that yet?
I think, I mean, probably on the management level is going to be the lowest hanging fruit.
Uh-huh.
So if you had, kind of the problem that as a customer or tenant I would face is like, hey, I've gotten a maintenance request, or I have this problem I need help with. You could feed all that data into a GPT and have the GPT do the instant management and kind of like that customer point, and
Yeah.
letting them know where to go. Probably the same thing with investors. I mean, hey, how do I do this thing in your portal? I've got this question about my K1. What's a good resource to, point my CPA to, or how does this work? That would be another good, like kind of like an AI. Like the next, if you read about people that are talking about where we're going, the next kind of level of AI is going to be agents. So right now we're at a level of GPT is like, go get this information, whatever, and just present it to me. The next level is going to be, here's the issue I have, not only find the information, but do an action for me. Maybe, for example, what we were talking about with multifamily, as the customer facing, like, hey, my dishwasher is not working. So not only do they say, hey, this is where we can get you to the maintenance portal, but they actually book the ticket with the maintenance tech. And hey, by the way, here is the schedule for the maintenance. They're going to come see you next Tuesday at 8 a.m. So you've like freed up the management personnel needed, and you've actually enabled this AI agent to solve a problem for you and take a small action on your behalf.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I'm seeing that a lot with, when you're online, if there's certain customer service,
Yep.
AWS. I know it's a lot of AI stuff, but I think, yeah, that's a great point, because as the customer or the tenant, you like that instant reply or instant response, right?
Yep.
And I think that's what that's our problem these days too. It's like we want everything now.
Yep.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy, but that's such a great point. Thank
Yeah.
you
We've
for
all
that.
been trained that way. We're all like in the Amazon culture of we get it
Yeah, it's
next
like,
day. We want the same thing with information. We've been trained to do that. And we want the same thing with, service. We're going to get it Grubhub, Uber Eats. I want it delivered to my door right now, but it's the same thing. People that want service, they want it right now. So I think AI is going to be able to do that at 24/7, and get people the answers, or get them to the help they want immediately. Whereas right now, it might just get you to the point of like, okay, you need to contact this person, and you still have to wait for that human in the middle. I think we're getting pretty close to the point where that first person is going to be removed from that loop.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Sean. So, just like any form of technology, like depending on the person, like there's always going to be great aspects about it where you could, do things for good, and you could also, do bad and evil things, right? And to be honest, like I was one of those people where when AI first kicked in, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if this is going to be good for the overall society, but then we started using it for our business. And I
Yep.
started realizing, like, as long as we're doing it for good, hey, let's keep going. What do you have to say to those that are very hesitant on utilizing AI? Because there's a lot of that right now.
Yeah. I mean, so if we're going to narrowly define the scope of your question to like not, I think if you want to talk about like the dual uses of AI, that's actually kind of what I wrote my paper on, and we could spend the next hour talking about that. But I think just narrowing it to a business scope, if you're hesitant to use it, you're going to be left behind, because I think where we're very quickly going in society is, AI is obviously going to take away some jobs, but the people that are going to be successful moving forward are the ones that can. It's kind of like computers, right? Like, yes, back in the day, like maybe I don't trust computers. I don't want to use Excel. I'm going to do this all by hand in a calculator, do it the old school way. Cool. But you can only get maybe 1/10 of what somebody using Excel or a computer could get done in a day. The same thing is going to be with AI. people that don't know how to utilize it and get productivity from it are going to be much less productive themselves because they're not going to be using the tools available to 10x, 20x what they can get done in a day. And it's another, as long as you see it as a tool to help you, and you kind of just have to learn it because it's not going away. And the people that can do it you're going to be like the person showing up to a job interview who can't use Excel and can't use Word. Like, how marketable are you? And that's pretty much where we're getting to pretty soon.
So let me shift gears here real quick. So as far as your business in real estate, what are you working on now? Like, what is your focus for this year actually, and till 2025?
I think for this year, my focus is going to be on scaling to the next level and really vetting partners to work with. So kind of backing up, I've been doing commercial real estate for almost about 12 years now. And some of my first few deals, were not working with people who are not the best. And I quickly learned that even if someone's up on stage, they're presenting and they're like the talk of the town, they have good marketing. A lot of times there's reasons for that, and they're not good ones. So I worked with some people who didn't have, who presented well. They were at the conference, they were the one talking, and I thought, hey, they're the real deal. They're going to be credible to work with. And working with them, it ended up not being the case. So this year, I really want to focus on networking with people and trying to vet people because I would like to scale up and get involved with more deals. I really enjoy the capital raising aspect. I think I'm good at doing the management piece. I'm good at solving problems and kind of getting to the bigger picture of why this is happening. But going back to what we talked about earlier, my return on time, that's not a very efficient use of my time. I'd rather be working with vetted operators and raising the money for them. And that way, that allows my investors to kind of spread out their capital risk. So, not putting a lot of lumpy capital into one deal and kind of spreading that out, aggregating it over multiple deals. And, they kind of talk about this investing like you're seeking alpha, right? You want non-correlated assets and non-correlated markets so they don't all rise and fall at the same time. And that's really what I try to do in my personal investing life. And I'd like to try that, do that with my investors. And the way I'm gonna have to do that is, getting other vetted operators that are doing well, that I don't have to, micromanage them so much, always be micromanaging the deal. I can kind of trust them to do it well. And then it's easier to kind of spread out your money that way.
That's fascinating. I'm glad you touched on like capital raising and the fun of a fund model. What is it about capital raising that wakes you up in the morning? How does it excite you, and why?
I think it's fun to be able to kind of, steer the course and get involved with things that maybe you're passionate about. Like one of my recent raises was for a rehab facility in Vail that's servicing a lot of veterans that had PTSD, maybe had traumatic brain injury, and this was they're using kind of state-of-the-art technology, and they're really pushing the edge of what medicine is doing and then what they can do for veterans. So I'm only whatever percentage of that raise, but what I did and helping bring money into that is going to help further push that research and that treatment, and they're having good outcomes for people. So this is, to me, like some of it feels like a way of giving back. And in my very small world, I'm kind of like driving towards things that I think are worthwhile and then people that I think are worthwhile. So I can kind of steer the course of where that money goes. And I've done the same thing with angel investing. A lot of the projects, the nature of it, a lot of projects you invest in are not going to do well, or just going to become zero. But a few of them actually, end up becoming something. So like one of the ones that actually did well for me and went public was a fintech company, but it was with somebody that I had known since I was like 13 years old. And he's just really smart guy, became an attorney, founded a company, and it was cool to be part of his personal journey and put money that I had made through my own hard work with the business, invest that in his business and make him be able to, do something that changed the market that he was working in. And that's kind of cool too. You can help people grow that you've known for a long time.
How does having a fund help with you achieving those goals for your investors?
I think it's just an easy vehicle. Kind of the reason I did it is I was I was very heavily exposed in single family during COVID. And then, during COVID was a hard time to be a single family landlord. People were, I had tenants that I had for years that were losing their jobs. And then kind of all the burden of this got placed back on the landlords. Like the banks weren't going to take a haircut with the mortgage payments. Like maybe they deferred it for a few months, but you still had to make it up at the back end. And it was just not a great place to be. So I decided to, kind of get out of that business and go back to what I've been doing for a much longer time, commercial real estate, and focus more so on that. So the fund has really given me a vehicle to invest my money and then have people that I know kind of come along with me to put money into the deals that I believe in. And that's been the big part of it. So it's, before that, it's, syndications, it's kind of very like paperwork intensive. There's a lot of hoops to go through. And then also, the part of the capital raising can be kind of stressful. Like, hey, we're closing this deal on Monday. Got to have all the funds wired in by Friday. There's like a time crunch for it. Whereas kind of my style of investing now is, hey, me being the fund is going to invest in this project. I believe in it because of X, Y, Z. We're going to allocate this much money. If you would like to come with us, cool. Here's the date. If not, feel free to backfill us in a year after you have some performance numbers, and it removes the pressure from people, and then it allows me still to allocate capital to projects that I believe in.
No, great point. Now, as far as the commercial investing, is there a certain asset type that you're like, or you're focused on, like multifamily, self-storage, could be conversions, I don't know, offices, industrial, anything?
So what I've found, I've been doing this for a while, and like I talked about a little bit earlier, I'm trying to find non-correlated assets to spread around. So with the fund, I've had quite a few different deals. Like there's been self-storage, there's rehab facility, kind of traditional multifamily with a portfolio of apartment complexes. There's actually a green energy deal, which was like going into like a kind of a refinement plant for hydrogen. So I'm trying to kind of spread it around to get some non-correlated assets and non-correlated markets. But what I've found doing this is, numbers can lie. People can put whatever they want into a spreadsheet. And I care about the macro events. Like I don't want beachfront property in Miami because that'll be an aquarium at some point. But so I care about the macro factors, but I really care more about the team and the operators who are doing it and how much can I trust them? And I look at a bunch of indicators, are they putting money into the deal? How long have they been doing this? Why are they trustworthy? Like, why are they doing this? People's why really fascinates me. Something about real estate, a lot of people, maybe because we're dealing with big numbers, but a lot of people are just kind of pure capitalists, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're just here to make money and you have no bigger why behind you, I don't know, that's a little, it kind of makes me question, like when it really comes down to the tough decisions, like if the only thing driving you is profit, you might be like tempted to not be as trustworthy and have as much integrity in the way you run your business. So I like people that have like a bigger why, rather than just making money, or just, building something bigger. I want there to be a bigger reason behind it. That's kind of what I'm going for. And really, there's some ways that I can kind of vet that out. I've tried to really work with veterans. For the most part, for me, it's a little biased, yes, but it's a known quantity that I've worked with. And I've found a lot of the veterans that I've worked with kind of carry over the values and the ethos that they learned in the military and kind of brought that over. And I really love people that are doing this with kind of new money. Like I came from very humble beginnings, grew up in a trailer park. Like I did not have family money. I had kind of worked to get everything on my own, and obviously very fortunate to have gotten in the military and gotten scholarships and had school paid for. But I love people that are like kind of the first generation where they made the wealth, where they had to work for it. Mom and dad weren't handing them $20 million down to build something up. They did it themselves. And I really connect and resonate with people that also had to, were doing this to get out of their 9 to 5 and kind of really appreciate what they're doing and had to work for it. It wasn't just handed to them.
I love that, Sean. One thing I admire about you and I've noticed about you, I don't know, maybe what year and a half that I've known you, is you are a voice and an advocate for your investors. And you're not shy addressing an issue that's going on with an investment. How would you say that investor relations is very essential for yourself as a business, but also for the LPs to find that fund or that an entity that will vouch for them on whether it's co-GP deals, whether you're the sponsor or even doing a fund of funds?
It's kind of a tricky thing. I think my biggest role, I mean, I've got two major roles communicating with the investors. One is just communication, and then the other one is I have to give it to people straight. Like if things aren't going well, I'm going to give it to you straight, and that's going to be to my investors and also to the other people in the GP. Like it's not a time to sugarcoat things because at the end of the day, these are people's livelihoods. Like this is, the retirement fund. This is money that they put lots of hours working into, and this is meaningful to them. Like this drives decisions they can make in their lives for their family, for their kids, whatever else. And then I think the last piece of it is education. So well, this is kind of like the other stretch goal for this year is I see my role as, because I have a lot of first time investors that I brought in with my fund, and educating them about not only like why do a fund or why invest in these funds and these deals, how is this different from the stock market, or why is it important to have non-correlated assets? How does offsetting your income with depreciation, how does that help you? So the education piece is the one that I really want to get better at this year. So, but I think at the end of the day, it's kind of hard to know because oftentimes the people with the flashiest marketing and like the loudest voices, they have that for a reason, and they might not be the best person to work with. So it's hard to know that until you actually work with somebody and kind of see how are they going to approach you? Are they going to tiptoe around an issue? Are they going to tell it to you straight, like respectfully, and treat you as another adult, but are they going to not really address issues and show out your shortcomings? Because it's really easy. My day job right now, I'm still in the aviation industry. I train airline pilots, and so I have this weird role where I have to tell these people that have been flying, most of them 20 years. They do this professionally. They've had hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people's lives in their hands. I have to tell them, hey, you screwed this up. You did not do this right. This is what was wrong. This is why I think it happened, and this is how you can fix it. So I have to bring that same mindset, I think, into when I'm a GP on deals or when I'm evaluating deals. You have to point out the flaws, and it takes more effort to tell someone about the shortcomings and, hey, this is how I think you can fix it, than it does to say, hey, great job, I love everything you're doing, and have like no tangible feedback. Negative feedback or constructive feedback on how you can get better is really hard to give to people, I think.
It definitely depends on the personality, but as long as you're vocal and it's coming from the truth and it's coming from a good place, ultimately that recipient will eventually receive that message. But going back to your educational piece, Sean, it's funny because I think in the world of investments, like you're always learning. I describe it like a dog chasing its tail. As soon as me personally, I think that I've identified the issue and have now corrected it. Now I'm noticing other gaps where I need to improve and educate myself on. And then eventually you start to share your education with others. So that way, maybe that person will start to learn that knowledge piece, but now they take on a different angle towards it. Next thing you know, you're learning and ping-ponging ideas from one another. So Sean, I admire what you're doing, man. And we're a big fan of what you're doing. And I see nothing but great things. If I was an LP in your fund, I probably would tell my friends and family because I know that Sean is going to be speaking out our concerns and wants to get business done correct in a very ethical way, which you do. As we're winding down, Sean, what is Sean's superpower?
I think my superpower is I know a guy or gal. Like I'm a good connector, and I've, like you talked about, you're kind of like the aggregate of the people around you. I've been very fortunate to surround myself with people that have done some really cool things in life. I go to Burning Man, like some of the people in my Burning Man camps are the CEOs of these big AI companies that you're reading about in the headlines. There's just a lot. I love people that are total nerds and like are very passionate about learning whatever industry they're in. And I've just met a lot of people that have done some really cool, nerdy stuff, whether that's like finance or, real estate, that are just passionate about what they do. So pretty good people connector. I've got a good network, and that seems to be the superpower that I've had. And if I had to do a secondary one, it's kind of cutting to the root of the problem. So if something's happening, getting away from the surface layer, and what is the thing that is really causing this, and what do we need to fix, and finding that quickly. I think that's probably a function of like all the businesses that I've worked in.
I love that. I loved all your answers that you've addressed on this episode. But as we get into the lightning round, I just want to give you just a disclosure. The next two questions may be the most difficult questions you've ever been asked. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, let's go. Let's dive into it. You are stuck on an island. You don't have any friends, relatives, business associates around you whatsoever. No, not a single soul. However, you are able to bring your smartphone. Obviously, the smartphone will not have data. You're not going to have access to phone calls, so we'll exclude all that altogether. But you are able to load up one musical artist or one album on your phone that you could listen to on repeat over and over again until you get rescued. Who is that artist, or what is that album?
I really enjoy Tool. So Tool, Lateralis, people that I'm not a musician myself, but friends that I have that have studied music and music theory really enjoy Tool, just because the different, I think one of them has like a PhD in music, and just the variety and depth of what they do with their music, and you can kind of flow through, like the whole album flows through. So yeah, Tool, Lateralis would probably be the one I would listen through on repeat for the whole time.
Yeah, you know what? Speaking of Tool, I think long time ago, I was introduced to Starplex Dallas. I think it was like a live album, and
Okay.
I don't know if you or if you know of that album, but I was never I wasn't a big fan of Tool, but now that I'm older, the reason why I ask these questions for one is like I get to know that person much more on a personal level, but I also get introduced to or reintroduced to new music. Thank you for sharing that with me. I know I'm going to start listening to the Tool discography more and more.
All right, for my question, I mean, as a pilot, you've traveled the world pretty much. So, but I guess, do you prefer tropical or do you prefer mountainous areas? And if so, where would it be? Or do you even have a bucket list?
I actually do have a bucket list. I mean, people say that, yes, I've traveled more than most people, but the world is a really big place. And like, there's entire continents that I've like only scratched the surface of. It's kind of a hard question because I've lived in Hawaii. I really enjoy the ocean and the beach. I love the sound of the ocean, and like the ocean at night is one of my favorite things. But also, I've lived in Boulder, Colorado, lived up in the mountains, and there's something about, the mountain air, or just like the stillness in the air after a big snowfall, and like nothing's moving, and like that is very magical to me. So this is probably why I still fly. I love to do both. I love to travel, and I live sort of close to the mountains now, but I like to go to tropical destinations, visit beaches, and so one of my favorite places in the world is New Zealand, because they have both. You can go to the islands there. They've got glaciers, they've got mountains, they've got beaches. And there's just like a lot of natural beauty there, which I really enjoy. So if I had to pick a place in the world that I could end up in, it'd probably be New Zealand.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to go to New Zealand. It's a long flight, but I would love to. I think the furthest I've flown is Australia, Perth. I don't know if you're familiar with.
Okay. Yeah, Perth. I mean, same distance. New
Yeah.
Zealand's just a little farther south, but yeah, it's worth it. But yeah, it's a long flight, and you've got to be down there for a bit. But I'd recommend it.
Awesome, awesome.
That's solid, Sean. Man, Anthony and myself, we could probably talk to you for another 2 hours, Sean. Like I know for me, it's been a while since I last spoke with you. You are a wealth of knowledge and experience. So I thank you for sharing this, sharing your story with our listeners. How can our listeners get a hold of you and learn more about your investment opportunities? Any websites, social media handles that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so we're on all the major social media outlets. The fund name is Airworthy Capital. So airworthycapital.com, on LinkedIn, also Facebook. And like I talked about, kind of my stretch goals for this year, I'd like to do some more education piece. So if you want to sign up, email list on there, I should be putting out some more education this year. But yeah, mainly the website and LinkedIn is where I push most of the content.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it big time, Sean, for taking the time. For those listening at home, please like, listen, and most importantly, share this episode with someone who you feel might find value of it. You could find the Nine Doors Down Show podcast on all your favorite platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio. But on that note, this is another episode of the Nine Doors Down Show. We out.
Peace.